where they were. They were like red and white planes, and they were doing this like
Thunderbirds.
The Thunderbirds, that's right. And they were doing these amazing formations. And your band, Lieutenant Dan Band, was there, and we got front row seats, and you let us stay there in your box, and it was awesome.
That's right. Yeah, it was the air show out there. We played there 2 or 3 times before.
And the music was awesome. I mean, the planes were awesome, and then the music was awesome. The food was great, and people were so enthusiastic and grateful. It made me feel proud to be an American.
Yeah, that's a great event there. It was, I love playing the air shows because the people that go to the air shows are just great Americans. They're very patriotic themselves, and the air shows, you just feel something. When you see the Blue Angels flying and the Thunderbirds flying, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah,
the bands are playing, and the music is playing. It's wonderful. It lifts you up.
It really does. Well, I've been looking forward to talking with you.
Served in World War I. Great uncle in World War I as well.
World War I. Wow.
Yeah, both in the Army. And then my grandfather met my grandmother at a military base in Rockford, Illinois, and she was an Army nurse, and they had 3 sons. 2 of them went to World War II, my 2 uncles, and then my dad served in the Navy during the Korean War. Then I met my wife. She has got multiple military members on her side of the family, Vietnam era and Cold War era.
Wow.
And also an nephew who served in Afghanistan. So a lot of military in the family. So a lot of what I'm doing, it kind of just generates from the family and then just spreads out from there.
Yeah.
Things which have happened unto me have fallen out rather to the furtherance of the gospel. That's verse 12. Listen to verse 19. It started playing through my head. I know that this, my condition at that moment, for Paul, it was in prison. I know that this shall turn to my salvation through your prayer and the supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, that in nothing I shall be ashamed, but with boldness as always, so now also Christ shall be magnified in my body, whether it be by life or by death. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. And what played again and again was to live as Christ, to live as Christ. That's what went through my mind at the moment of an explosion when the devil lowered the boom, took his best shot, and fired. He knocked me halfway into eternity. But Matt and Laurie, I'm still here because no weapon formed against me can prosper. And greater is he that's in me.
Thank you, Lord.
Than he that's in the world. Think of that. I got the devil by the tail and I'm swinging him around. Oh, God, what a great life it is to know Christ. Amen. I'm sorry I'm getting all excited, probably ahead of myself. Whew. Alone. Well, me and my doggy. I said, God, I can't do this without you. I'm at my wit's end. I'm broke. What do I do now? And before the week's out, God's answering the prayer. That tiny little, okay, God, I'm going to trust you. I went to sleep and I didn't worry about the money that night. I actually slept all night last night without fear. And today God answered that tiny little grain of mustard seed. He answered it.
So life as you have lived it, if you go back to, what storytellers say is the inciting incident of having a hand grenade in your hand, a sniper bullet piercing through, blowing up a white phosphorus grenade near your face, and you now sitting here, numerous surgeries.
62.
And you are proof of a life of fighting the good fight of faith. But there was a moment that your 50-year story and our 50-year story kind of comes together with a lady we both knew and loved named Jan Crouch. If you would, a lot of people may not know that story.
Can I tell that story?
If you would kind of unpack that for us, that's a neat touch
I'll
point.
tell you what preceded that story.
Okay.
It happened in Tustin, and I was tired when I got the call on, and Jan, who is the lover of my soul, I never had anybody love me like Jan Crouch. I'm just telling you the facts. That woman was the best friend I could ever have. She knew me in a spiritual sense, like no one knew me. And you'll see why in a moment. She called. She said, I need you on Monday. Well, she called me on Sunday night. That's the next day. I just come off a 90-day tour. I was exhausted. I said, Jan, I'm so tired. I'll be a terrible guest. I said, I'm just tired. I want to be at my best for you. She said, I'll make it easy. I said, don't ask me difficult questions. She said, okay, I'll make it easy. So I get there. I walk in. I sit down. Time to praise the Lord. And all the music. She says, welcome, Dave Weaver. Dave, do you still carry baggage out of that war? That's not an easy question.
Yeah.
And I looked at her, and you know, when you're tired, you're vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, you talk too much. Help me, I'm talking and I can't shut up. I started telling her things I'd never told anyone. My wife, Brenda, never knew of my suicidal tendencies. How that after my injury, they flew me out by helicopter and then on a big jet to Japan. And there, when I looked in the mirror and I saw my face, I didn't want teenage wife to see it. I tried to kill myself because I knew they wouldn't open the casket for a monster. And I pulled the tube out to kill. And I pulled the wrong tube. I got hungry, and it was lunch. I pulled out lunch, and it was embarrassing. You're trying to kill yourself, then you feel like an idiot too. And so they sent me to America. And here's the story is, I am so suicidal sitting on that set that night with your mama. I said, Jan, suicide never leaves my thoughts. There's a demon on my back oppressing me, trying to possess me. And I said, girl, it's just driving me nuts. And one of these days, it's in this war of attrition. I said, one of us is going to lose. The devil's going to win or I'm going to win. And she said, why do you feel that? I said, because I know what happened. I know when it happened. I know where it happened. I even know why it happened. Now, I didn't know at the moment. I thought it was a rocket they did. I didn't know it was my grenade detonated by a sniper. I don't know why he didn't stop it from happening. I don't know why he didn't stop it from happening. That's the big question. Yeah. I know why. It was a grenade. But if he can put the moon in space, could he stop a 7.62 bullet out the muzzle of an AK-47? Yes, he could. Yeah. Why didn't he stop it? And she looked at me and she said, well, it's really funny she did this. Put her scared of heights. I wouldn't have jumped off the bottom floor balcony, which was 8 inches. And I blew it off because one day Jan Crouch said to me, he trusted you with the scars. What has God trusted us with? And we're saying, why me? He said, whoa, that wasn't condemnation, that was confirmation. That's not a liability, that's a liberty. Yeah. God trusted us with something that to us was a liability. But to him, as I give you liberty with your scars, you can relate to military all over the world. They'll listen to you because you got a scar to back up everything you say. You get it, don't you?
I do.
I can see yours. And your body grows more blood vessels closer. And the objective is to get blood flow right to the surface where you don't have any skin. So when they put autograft, your skin on it, the blood's right there, and it instantly starts growing before the skin can shrivel, die, and be a waste of your own skin. But the guy that gave his skin to Brooke Army Medical Center, like I have, I willed my body to Brooke Army Medical Center. It's on my military ID today. When I die, my body goes to Brooke. They get all the things they want, skin. I've never smoked. Well, I smoked once, but they got the fire out, thank God. I never smoked, never drank, and never had a venereal disease. All that stuff that damages you, I never had that. And then they promised they would bury my body above Brenda so I can still be her covering, even in death. My last romantic act. And I can't tell a joke right. I get the punchline. Did you hear the story about the 3 little pigs and the wolf that blew the house down? You know, I don't get them right. But I can tell you in my lifetime, when some would give up and shoot themselves and kill themselves because it hurt, I laughed my way out of hell, and I'm laughing my way to those pearly gates because the way you look at yourself, you're really quite beautiful, but you know you're not. You know that inside you're mutilated. You've been burned so many times by people you trusted and loved. They failed you. But the one that failed you the most is yourself, and you don't trust yourself anymore. You lied to yourself. You promised yourself you wouldn't, and you did it anyway. You succeeded in one thing, and like losing weight, you lose 20 pounds, reward yourself with a gallon of ice cream. You just don't know how to deal with you. Quit trying. Let Jesus deal with you. You'll never, the problem with being the self-made man is you worship your creator, yourself. When you worship yourself, you'll never be what you think you ought to be because you're not good enough. I'm not good enough. When you worship the creator, you go from human.
He plays drums on it. And Mac wanted, he thought, you know, if we ever sold any records, the proceeds could go to the Gary Sinise Foundation. He loved the foundation. He loved the mission of the foundation to help our mission to support our veterans. And we've sold almost 7,000 vinyl copies of these records at the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Man.
It's beautiful. It's a sad tale. We lost our battle. You know, we were praying and praying and praying hard for the miracle that we wanted to come to help our son. It was a difficult summer, the summer of 2018, when we found out he had cancer. A month before, I found out my wife had stage 3 breast cancer. So it was like, you know, a double whammy summer. And now I've got 2 cancer patients. And, you know, caregivers everywhere know what I'm talking about when, you know, you just become, you get in the fight and you try to do whatever you can to help and to also try to provide some cover so that someone like Mac, who's dealing with an incurable cancer, doesn't have to think about cancer every single day. I dealt with the doctors, and I dealt with the nurses, and I dealt with the appointments, and I dealt with trying to research the drugs and all that stuff so that he could just try to have a happy day, you know, and not be thinking about that all the time.
Yeah.
That's what caregivers, you know, have to do. You take, you're the battle buddy, and you get in the trench and you try to keep your battle buddy going. You know?
Man, that's so good. And it's so inspiring. Thank you for sharing that story with us and sharing Mac's music with the whole world. And I hope
it's beautiful.
I hope
stuff.
many people listen to this.
You can go to his YouTube channel, and you can see videos of the recording sessions of some of the music. And I recommend starting with Arctic Circles because it's a magnificent piece, and it really is very, very moving. You know, you see me bring Mac in the wheelchair, and then he's sitting there listening to the orchestra play this piece of music.
Wow!
And it was the first time I heard it, and I was knocked out by it.
Yeah.
Something.
Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you.